I will call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. Clerk, could we please have roll?
1 presiding, 10 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Mankins is excused tonight. Commissioner Sorich, would you lead us in the prayer and the pledge?
Thank you, Madam Chair, fellow commissioners. Almighty God, we implore you, look upon us and guide us this night as we make decisions which will greatly affect our community of Butte-Silver Bowl. Direct our thoughts, words, and deeds so that we please you and best serve our fellow citizens. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next is public comment on any items on tonight's agenda. If there's any members of the public that would like to speak on any item on the agenda. Seeing none. Report of the chair. I don't have anything to report tonight, and this could be a little bit of a longer meeting, so we'll just go ahead and move right into the agenda. Section 1, bid openings, public hearings and/or presentations. Item number 1, communication number 2024-355, public hearing. Karen Hassler, Finance and Budget Director, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to schedule a public hearing for August 14th, 2024 for the adoption of the fiscal year 2025 final budget and establish the user rates for stormwater system, solid waste disposal and collection, and lighting and fire hydrant district. This public hearing will begin on August 14th, 2024 and be continued until the Council of Commissioners sets a date to adopt the fiscal year 2025 final budget and fix the rate and levies. County Attorney Fyvie, is there proof of publication for both public hearings?
Chairperson Shea, there is proof of publication for both of these communications, and they are in order.
Thank you very much. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Director Hassler before I open the public hearing? Okay. I'll open the public hearing. First call for proponents. Second call for proponents. Third call and final call for proponents. All right, we're going to leave this public hearing open, so I won't be closing it. It will remain open until we adopt the final budget. And we'll go through this all again next week. Item number 2, communication number 2024-356. Karen Hassler? I did. Didn't I ask for opponents? Oh, any opponents? I assume there's none. I'm sorry. Thank you. All right. So we'll leave that one open. Item number 2, communication number 2024-356. Karen Hassler, Finance and Budget Director, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to schedule a public hearing for August 14th, 2024 to establish the user rates for Metro Sewer. The public hearing will begin on August 14th, 2024 and be continued until the Council of Commissioners sets a date to adopt the fiscal year 2025 final budget and fix the rate. All right, I will open this public hearing. First call for proponents. Second call for proponents. Third and final call for proponents. Now we'll move to opponents. First call for opponents. Second call for opponents. Third and final call for opponents. And again, we will leave this public hearing open and take public comment through the date of the adoption of the budget. Next section is bid openings. Communication number 2024-349, Angie Mullican, Public Works Grant Manager, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence to schedule a bid opening for August 14th, 2024 for the library boiler replacement project. County Attorney Fyvie, do we have proof of publication?
Chairperson Shea, there is proof of publication, and it appears to be in order.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Sullivan.
Yes, Madam Chair, it looks like we have one bid from Tri-County Mechanical out of Helena.
Madam Chair, there was a bid bond posted in the amount of 10%, and that appears to be in order.
Thank you.
So the proposal from Tri-County Mechanical is $163,890. That's 163,890 and no cents.
And that's the only bid we received?
That was the only bid, and there is an alternate on here for some pump replacements also that were included in our bid docs, and that was for $69,728.00, 69,728.00.
Okay, so the original bid was $163,890, and they included an alternative, including the pump replacement,
That is correct.
okay, for $69,728.
Correct.
Okay, do any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Sullivan? Okay,
All right.
Commissioner Thatcher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I would like to make a motion to refer communication number 2024-349 to government buildings to report back with a recommendation.
Motion and a second to refer the bid to Government Buildings Department for their recommendation. Is there anything on the question? Commissioner Anderson?
Commissioner Anderson, there was in the original when we first went out 2-3 years ago, which was quite a bit less than this. We had more money appropriated, but this is in line with what we'd seen on the Fire Department 1 boiler replacement, so.
Okay, thank you. Follow up, Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you. And with it being over budget on that from the years that have passed with inflation and everything, I'm imagining we still have the necessary budget authority to get this put through and done this year.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes, Commissioner Anderson, yes, we have the money appropriated for this. That's correct.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sullivan.
You bet.
All right, will commissioners please vote to refer this to Government Buildings? Would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
11 yea, 0 nay.
11 yea, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving on to presentations, communication number 2024-333, Stephanie Johnson, Butte-Silver Bow Library Director, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization for a presentation on August 14th, 2024 for a presentation of the annual report of the BSB Public Library. Ms. Johnson, welcome. You can go right there and then just touch the button on the bottom of the mic, and that will turn it on. The light is on the top of the mic, not.
That's terrifying.
I
Thank you very
know.
much.
Yeah. All right, so whenever you're ready, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, everybody, for making time for me. I'll try to keep it quick. I can go for quite a while, but I'll try to keep it under 10 minutes. Thank you for letting me showcase the library and its offerings. There is a small packet for everyone, just our most recent statistics and our strategic plan. The Butte Public Library began November 1890 with a gift of $10,000 from Charles X. Larrabee, with the provision that it be matched initially and that the city would fund the library for future operations. Trustees had earlier operated a small library in the spare room of the county courthouse. Matching funds were collected by mine crews who challenged each other, enabling the citizens of Butte to raise the matching funds by the summer of 1891. This would be $345,000 they raised in 6 months. When the building opened in 1894, it held more than 16,000 items. The library moved to its current location in 1991 into the renovated Montana Telephone Company building. Volunteers formed a book brigade to move 5,000 items hand to hand, shelf to shelf, from the old building at the Broadway and Dakota location to the new building at Broadway and Idaho Street. Our current building houses over 72,000 items, books, movies, audiobooks, etc., free resources to be shared by all. In 2010, during repairs after frozen pipes, the library reached out to the Butte Plaza Mall for a temporary space. They generously donated vacant retail space across from the movie theaters. We received paint, shelving, and volunteer labor from local businesses and have been at that location ever since. This branch is very popular during the winter months especially. This is our mission statement. Yeah, you have it in front of you. I'd be happy to read it, but the important things here are learning, investing, connecting, and creating. These are what we determined to be the primary missions of the Butte Public Library. The Board of Trustees held a strategic planning meeting in May of this year and determined that the top 3 priorities would be facilities and staffing. Thank you for the boiler bid, by the way. Collections and community outreach / lifelong learning. The results of the strategic plan are in your packet. Organizational chart, a brief rundown. The Board of Trustees directs the actions of the library. They're appointed by recommendation from the Chief Executive's office and appointed by council, so I owe you all a big thank you for giving me such a great board. And I would like to thank my great board for coming here tonight to support me and for showing such generosity and such vision in this project. Year in review. My big accomplishment this year was I convinced the Montana Library Association to have their annual event in Butte. It literally had not been in Butte for decades, so that was 200 librarians that came to stay, eat, shop, and recreate. We received a grant from the National Library of Medicine to purchase health materials for our collection, and we will be holding a screening event in September that is free of charge and open to the public. We've partnered with Action Inc. again to distribute free summer lunches for kids. I'm so proud of that, to be a partner in that. And we monthly host the Memory Cafe in partnership with the Butte Alzheimer's Association. That's the second Thursday of the month, and it's events and programs tailored to our Alzheimer's community patients and care providers. We saw 61,000 people last year. Storytime Fridays brought in 5,700 kids. Summer reading, I'm pleased to say, is up again. We had 189 kids sign up, down from a lockdown low of 10. We had a lot of teens show up for our after-school clubs, and we had adult programs like book clubs, cooking demonstrations, gardening programs, trivia nights, and movie nights. We loaned 57,000 items. We downloaded 19,000 items. I'm very proud of this. The Montana Library to Go is a consortium of free downloadables available to card holders. And it just keeps getting more and more popular every year. We added 6,900 new items, 4,900 new downloadables, and logins and visits to our webpage, obviously. Children's programming. Our children's librarian is Kathy Friel. She's been doing a spectacular job with summer reading. She put in for a town pump grant, and they gave us enough money to fund books, prizes, treats, and crafts for kids all summer long. It was wonderful. Again, I can't shut up about the summer lunch program. We're very excited. Action Inc. Delivers all the food. We're just a distribution point, but I'm so proud of us. Teen programs, okay. Monday is manga and anime club. Tuesday is cribbage night and Lego night. Wednesday is chess club and teen gaming night, sometimes board games, sometimes video games, and Friday is the science club. They are better attended during the school year than during the summer, but we persevere. Adult programs. Sherry Curtis is our adult services librarian, and she coordinates the First Friday lecture series. We have a noon lecture on the first Friday of every month. Several book clubs. She hosts trivia night at the Cavalier. Cooking the Books is a cooking demonstration. Don't want to give the wrong impression there. And we've partnered for some really nice events at the Covalite. She also does artist receptions at the Car Gallery. Park Street Community Garden. I don't know if everybody's familiar with this. It's on Park Street, a couple of doors down from the Hummingbird. We got some great new fencing in there. It's beautiful. We've got 30 raised beds, I believe. They're all occupied right now. And we're going to do a small orchard in the vacant lot next door. So it's going to be a big improvement. It's beautiful. Go by. If you go down the alley side, there's raspberries. Special projects and programming. The first one on this list is Butte Literacy, and this is a big partner for us. We've worked with them for many years, but Tenny Hammond is the current program coordinator, and she has turned the program into something truly amazing. After 3 years, we've got a 97% graduate rate. It's to promote literacy overall, but one of the biggest things she does is coordinate tutors, train tutors, set students up with pre-tests so that they can complete their high set exam, which is what the GED is now. So 97% graduation rate. It's a wonderful program to be involved with. The Alzheimer's Association, obviously. Butte Plaza Mall, thank you again for the space. All of these folks have helped us out in some capacity or had some really exciting programs for us. If I could, Western Montana Mental Health has been really supportive of us, and they use our space for meeting rooms sometimes, but one of the big things they did was a multi-day event where you could come in and have somebody help you get your ID card, and we know how important that is. So that was a big one. We do tech tips at the Belmont Senior Center and at Big Sky Senior Living. Silverbow Kiwanis donated a dozen laptops that we check out to students that maybe don't have a laptop of their own. Community clubs and meetings. These are community groups that use our meeting room spaces. The Loosely Knit Club is the loudest, in case you were wondering. They do the most laughing. Oh, I apologize for the formatting. The ELSA Award. The Montana State Library Commission awarded the Butte-Silver Public Library staff the Excellent Library Services Award in 2024. The Board of Trustees threw a ceremony to congratulate the staff, and Mr. Gallagher was nice enough to come down and help us honor the staff for their excellent work. Did I mention the Montana Library Association Conference? Fun was had. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
Do any commissioners have any comments, questions? I would like to take the opportunity to say thank you for all that you do, and thank you to the trustees who are very committed, and I appreciate you guys carrying most of the weight when I'm not able to be there. I think that our library I think that all libraries are crucial to a civil society. They are safe spaces for people, and touring our library was very eye-opening for me, and I would encourage any of the commissioners to reach out to Director Johnson and get on the tour calendar and take a walk through there. It's fantastic, the programming that happens, and they do it so well, it's almost under the radar. So, any commissioners? Any comments, questions? Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you very much, Chairwoman Shea. Ms. Johnson, Director Johnson, thank you very much for the presentation. I have a great passion for libraries and books in general. It's much different from when you moved into the library. I remember being a part of that book brigade 30-some years ago. My dad was working there at the time and kind of forced myself and some of the family. It was very difficult growing up with the librarian in the house. You had to be quiet all the time and punished for your stupid friends. But the programs and everything that you guys are doing is fabulous. I hear great things about it. I love walking in there. The biggest benefit I see is, I'll wait for the truck to go by. You mentioned, and I really wish more people would look into it, but the library app on your phone, the Library to Go, is such a wonderful thing. I gobble books like mad lately. I'm still trying to reach over 100 in a year, and I'm falling terribly short this year. But all of the things that you offer at the library is phenomenal. Like I said, that one's probably my favorite. The programs for the children are amazing, and so it's a great benefit to our community. And the numbers look good, but when I look at the numbers in the community and the need, I really wish that a lot more people would utilize the wonderful service that you provide and everything. So thank you very much, and keep up the good work. Tremendously enjoyed by myself, and I know numerous others. So thank you.
Commissioner Anderson, I would like to take a moment, if it's okay, to ask the board, the trustees, to stand up, and I'll read your name, and if you would just wave your hand so everybody knows who you are. We've got Julie Bushmaker. There's Julie, and Eva Curry, and Kay Vang, and Margie Mansanti. Thank you guys so much for everything that you do. All right, well, if there's no other comments or questions, thank you so much for the presentation. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me, and I brought applications if anybody needs a library card.
Ooh, wonderful. You could leave them on the table back there for the public. Thank you. All right, moving on to communication number 2024-358. John Moudry, Community Enrichment Director, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization for time on the August 14th, 2024 agenda to report back findings of review of RFP quotes for parking services for Butte-Silver parking enforcement. Mr. Moudry.
Madam Chair, members of council, for the record, John Moudry, Community Enrichment Director. First off, I'd like to apologize for not being here the night of the opening, and I know there was a lot of questions, and hopefully after reviewing the proposals, I can answer some of those questions tonight. You have a packet in front of you of the three, and it's a summary of the costs that were given in the three proposals. The first one on the top is Cardinal. Cardinal happens to be a Texas firm, which is currently what we're using for our ticketing platform, our handhelds, and our ticketing platform. One of the questions that was brought up 2 weeks ago was this a 5-year or a 3-year proposal? In the proposal, we requested a 5-year proposal, not a 3-year, but a 5-year proposal. We requested 4 items within the proposal. First one would be the license plate recognition for the parking garage, 3 handheld parking enforcement tools, 2 kiosks, payment kiosks in the parking garage, and the 4th item we asked for was the no parking meters, I guess is the best way. I don't want to use trade names, so I will say parking meters, no parking meters. The first proposal is from Cardinal. Cardinal did submit all 4 requests. In their cost breakdown, and the breakdown is there, I'm just going to give you the totals. The total would be $145,257. We did rank all of these proposals. And Cardinal was actually the second ranked. They were all very close. All three companies are very reputable, have very good track records, and have clients across the country. So it was very close. The reason we're not making a recommendation to use Cardinal, two reasons. One is their costs, and the other one is we requested that they propose no third-party vendors. Now, Cardinal does use third-party vendors. We wanted to see if we could get one vendor that would handle all of our needs at this point in time. Cardinal did, complete their proposal, and it was, like I said, it was a very good proposal. If you go to your second one, this is T2 in your packet. T2 is Cardinal's out of Texas. T2 is out of Indiana. And they do have a satellite office in British Columbia, but they are originating out of Indiana. T2 only bid 2 items in their proposal, which were the 3 handhelds and the printers, and 2 kiosks, payment stations at the garage. And T2, their proposal is only for 3 years, not 5 years. And as you can see at the top, they used our form to submit these numbers back to us, and it does say 5-year lease agreement. Now, the lower section was used to, if there are any additional costs that would come to Butte-Silver Bowl over time, or even additional costs that would be charged to the violators. The reason T2, again, that we did not recommend, or are not recommending to use T2, is because they only bid 2 of the 4 items. MPS is the third. This is the one that we are making a recommendation to use. They bid all 4 items. They did come in at $83,900. The only additional cost they show is the $7 per lookup for license plates, and that will go to the violator. One other item that for the collection services on current and past fines, MPS is at 50% sharing cost on those. So anything we turn over to them for collection, they will collect 50%, we'll collect 50%. The only other one that bid that was Cardinal, and they were at a 30% sharing. Butte-Silver Bowl would take 70%, and they would only take 30%. And the rankings came back and it's a scored ranking on a 70-point system. MPS came back ranking at 57 points. Cardinal came back at reading at 52, and T2 came back at 48. I guess I'm here for any questions the council may have. At this point in time, we are recommending to move forward with negotiations of a contract with MPS to provide parking services for Butte-Silver Bowl for the next 5 years.
Thank you, Mr. Moudry. I will turn it over to the commissioners if you have any questions. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chairman Shea. Thank you, Mr. Moudry. John? So the $83,900 is per year?
No, that's excuse me, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Fisher, that is a upfront 5-year payment for 5 years. We pay $83,900, we don't pay anything else until we come back in 5 years and renegotiate this contract.
Thank you.
Anything else? Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Chairwoman Shea. Mr. Moudry, just looking at your communication, so if I'm understanding this correctly, you're asking us to approve the bid for MPS and move forward with negotiating a contract, or is this just a FYI presentation?
Thank you, Commissioner Morgan. I think I can answer that. This is just a presentation tonight. We wouldn't be able to take any action tonight, but I would look forward to another communication from you that we can make the recommendation and vote on that next week. Go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
Moudry.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Morgan, I am under the understanding that the recommendation comes back to this council, and that when we negotiate the contract, then the contract would come back to this council for approval for the chief executive to sign that contract. In the RFP, we did request that we can negotiate the contract now going forward to whoever we present this to. So I don't think there's any action needed tonight. I think when we come back with that contract in hand and we've negotiated that, I know there was a lot of questions when the contract was before this council ahead of time. So any questions, anything in that original contract, would you please submit that to me, and we will negotiate that with MPS. Any of the concerns the council may have, please contact myself or Chief Executive Gallagher, and we will work through that to get that contract the way that the best negotiation we can have, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moudry. Any follow-up or Commissioner Callahan?
Thank you, Chairperson Shea. Mr. Moudry, I was just curious, on line 6 it says no parking LPRs 20 to 50. Why wouldn't we just automatically use 50?
Go ahead, Mr. Moudry.
Chairman Shea, Commissioner Callahan, we did not use 50. This is what came back from the companies themselves. That is what they came back within their proposals of what they would be using, share. That's what they would want to share. And doing the proposals, the two proposals that did do the no parking, which was MPS and Cardinal, they both came back at 50% sharing on those no parking citations. So it's something new that we've never done in the past, but those are for safety zones, the painted areas, that type thing, and it is a 50% sharing on those citations.
Thank you, Mr. Moudry. Go ahead, Chief Executive Gallagher.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Commissioner Callahan. I think that your question was, why not use 50 units rather than 20? Yeah, it says 20 to 50. Is that? I think that's what he was referring to, instead of the 50% share
Of the
on
candles.
the units in the LTR or LPR, the no parking LPRs.
Go ahead, Mr. Moudry.
Excuse me, I'm reading, I read further on line 6, and that was the 50%. Excuse me, Madam Chair and Commissioner Callahan. That is their proposal. I'm sure we could go with 50 right off the bat. Now, and we can negotiate that in the contract. We felt the one issue we may have is these are kind of performance-based. So if we get 50 of them out there and they're not performing, we are going to have to pay the base price on these if they're not collecting. So it was felt when, in the original contract, when I negotiated this with MPS, they felt that us starting with 20 and the ability to go to 50, and we could do that immediately if these started producing like they feel it did. Now, MPS is the one that did the pilot project here. They still have 2 of them in the sidewalk down there on Dakota and Broadway. So, and then I guess the other thing, all 3 of these companies came and visited Butte. They came and visited our garage. They came and spoke with me prior to their submissions. they were all very diligent in getting this proposal to us.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moudry. Anything else, Commissioner Callahan? Okay. I do have a question for the county attorney, just to make sure that everything's in order, just because of the confusion that we had at the beginning. Are there any issues with how this was gathered, how it's been presented, and any obstacles to moving forward next week?
Madam Chair, not that I can see, obviously, if you remember, we had quite the discussion on whether or not this should go out to bid. My recommendation was that it should have. That happened, 3 companies did their best to bid. Seems like 1 out of the 3 didn't do all of the requirements, but that's not the one being recommended. So I think, based on what I'm seeing, that the county could certainly move forward with putting this into a contract and moving forward with an approval.
Thank you, County Attorney Fyvie. Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Moudry, for all of the information and all of the work that's gone into this. And please thank the 3 companies for us as well for their time and effort. And then I look forward to a communication in the future from you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to add one more comment. These companies were a delight to work with. And 2 of the 3 numbers that came back, the one from T2 and from MPS, are the identical numbers that I got when I went out and asked for quotes. There was one other company that we did solicit from. It's called Passport. They did not give us a quote when we asked for quotes. And again, I have a letter from them stating that they were not interested at this time to bid on this RFP, but they, again, another reputable company willing to, if we have issues in the future, step up and work with us.
Great. Thank you for that extra information. I appreciate it. All right, moving to Section 2, Communications, item number 1. Communication number 2024-333, Stephanie Johnson, Butte-Silver Bowl Library Director, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization for a presentation on August 14, 2024, for a presentation of the annual report of the Butte-Silver Bowl Public Library. We had that presentation earlier. Commissioner Thatcher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I would like to place communication number 2024-333 on file.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to place communication number 2024-333 on file. Is there anything on the question? Will everybody please vote? Would anybody like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
11 yea, 0 nay.
11 yea, 0 nay, motion passes. Item number 2, communication number 2024-351. Karen Hassler, Interim Finance and Budget Director, requesting Council of Commissioners to refer the fiscal year 2025 preliminary budget to the Committee of the Whole meeting on August 7th, 2024 for further discussion. This item is riding on our agenda, and I believe that Director Hassler has some additional information for us regarding the budget.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of council. On your desks this evening is another lengthy list of amendments that we had in the last week to the budget. We can discuss some of those, and then we'll get on to the receipt of the certified values for the county for this year, and also how that will impact our budget and the number of mills required to create a balanced budget. So looking at our summary of amendments, I just want to talk about briefly some of the bigger items that you'll see. First off, there's an addition of $1.633 million, or $1,633,000, or $333,550. And this is an improvement and also a donation at the same time. This is not a cash expenditure to the city county of Butte-Silver Bow. MR needed to reroute a water line up the Moulton, and so they paid for that reroute of that water line in its entirety, and upon completion, Butte-Silver Bow will accept that water line. So we accept it as an asset, but we also need to record the revenue as a donation. So they offset each other. It's no cash out of our pocket. Some of the other expenditures that you see are related to balancing our grant funds. So as they spend down their fiscal year 2024 budget, we estimated some of those expenditures, and then once the year is closed, we go back and reconcile that based on the amount of revenue that they have going forward into 2025. You'll also see that we have the removal of the courthouse bathroom remodel and the courthouse window rehabilitation project and the courthouse rear sidewalk reroute. These were specifically numbers that were very specific to these projects. And so in the attempt or with the goal of spending down all of our ARPA dollars, we consolidated those into a courthouse improvement fund so that it doesn't necessarily limit us to $500,000 for a courthouse bathroom remodel if it happened to come in at a little bit more than that, or it doesn't limit us to $500,000 for window rehabilitation or replacement within the courthouse. So some of that, it's like $7,500. You'll see is in the $1,430,000 line below, with some additional funds added for potential additional improvements to the courthouse. We also took the opportunity to add $1.63 million in road projects. This money is, I think, the result of creating a road maintenance district where we have our residents pay into the road maintenance district. That fund takes care of all of the maintenance of the road, or all of the, the roads in the district, but they in turn pay the road department for the use of their equipment. So they're bringing in their cash. The road maintenance district is paying roads for the use of their equipment, and this creates a bit of a reserve fund in the road budget that allows for additional improvements to our roads. So instead of carrying this money in reserves, we spoke with Mr. Neary, and he said that he could definitely use it on our roads. So we added it into the budget. This addition is based on the reserves in the roads and has no overall impact to the number of mills that will be levied to balance the budget. If you go a little bit further down, there's also an increase in $700,000 in water line replacements. This is along those same lines. We had $500,000 in cash that was reserved or restricted for a project with the Department of Transportation. Once the project was successfully completed, they released that restriction, and so that cash came back into their unrestricted coffers. And instead of carrying a large reserve balance for the water division, we also again spoke to Mr. Neary, and he said that this money could definitely be used to replace water lines also. Also no impact to our ratepayers to add this $700,000 improvement into the budget. Some of the other more significant increases or changes here that you'll see here, not increases. We had budgeted for a Centerville retaining wall in the capital improvement budget. After speaking to former Director Gleason, she advised that as an enterprise or a stormwater project that this should not be in capital improvements, and so we moved it out to the stormwater enterprise fund, so it's just an in and an out. As well as all of the related funding transfers that were going to be used to pay for this project, such as the SLIPA grant, some ARPA funding, and a potential grant from SARTA as well. So in the allocation of some of the additional remaining ARPA funds that we had, the golf course, the Highland View, had requested a reel grinder, and that request was initially denied. But after consideration and the use, or needing to spend down our ARPA dollars, it has been re-added to the budget as an approved item, as well as $50,000 for new golf carts at the Highland View Golf Course. We also have a $50,000 increase to the Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund to contract with the lobbyists for our state legislative session. $100,000 in budget authority that is to be added to the Fair Board. This again is not a cash expenditure of ours. We have to reconcile their grant activity or their Fair Board activity to our books, and so we record it as a revenue and also as an expenditure, so they offset each other. And then going down the line, there's some transfers, carryovers in the health department. You'll see some reallocation of wages where it's not a new position. We're not deleting or removing a position. They're just being moved in between their available grant funds. And these next, the majority of the second page just talks about the balancing of those health department grants going into next year. We also had there's some changes into the some of the TIF districts that once we received their allocation of their increment, it increased the amount of funds that they had available in their budgets. And in order to maximize their potential to get those out to the constituents in those districts, we added budget authority there that is covered by their increment. We also have an increase in a transfer of $140,000 from the general fund into a special fund for the study commission that will be formed this next year. And the very last items, first there's one that I specifically want to mention. There's an increase of $100,000 to the fire fund. This was a request that had come from Director Osborne for the fire department, and it had been an ongoing request for a reserve for their SCBA equipment. This year, in the preliminary stages of the budget, we determined that they were going to exceed their cap. And we did ask him to go through his budget and cut some items in order to fall below that cap. When we received the certified values, and due to the fact that he did cut his budget, the receipt of the certified values, and also a transfer of some ARPA funds into the fire department to cover some of their capital, they fell below their cap, and so we did reinstate $100,000 into their reserve fund for the safety equipment for their firefighters. The last increases that you will see there, these are to budget for some potential increases that we might see in our law enforcement division. We have detectives that work 2,080 hours, and we have a handful of specialty officers that work 2,080 hours, while the remainder of the officers work 2,184. And there is a request to bring those officers at 2080 up to the 2184. And although this has not been negotiated, we felt that it would be prudent to put it in the budget in the event that it is negotiated and approved in a collective bargaining unit contract, that we did have the funds available to pay for those additional hours. Does anybody have any questions on our budget amendment sheet?
Thank you, Chairman Shea. Great job, Karen. We were talking about the parking here a little while ago, so I would like a little more information on the transfer to parking commission, transfer from the general fund, and transfer to the parking garage, and transfer to the general fund from the parking garage.
Director
In the middle of the
Hassler.
page on Exhibit A.
Director
Madam
Hassler.
Chair. Madam Chair, Commissioner Fisher, members of council, that transfer is necessary to balance their budget for this year. They have cash, very little reserves, and when you go and take the requirement half of the budget and match it to the reserve or the resource half, they were short by that amount, and that's what's required to balance their budget for fiscal year 25. I think that in the event that, you know, you can look in the back of your budget book in the revenue section and see that their revenues have been lagging, and that is, you know, probably the biggest reason why they are in this position. But I think that, you know, they're headed down the right road, looking at ways to increase their revenue in both the parking garage and the parking commission to help, you know, become a department that can be sustainable.
Thank you, Director Hassler. Commissioner Fisher, follow-up.
Thank you, Chairman Shea. Thank you, Karen. Great explanation. So am I reading this right, that the general fund transferred $54,288 to the parking? Is that what it reads there?
Director Hassler.
From 30,000 to 84288.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Fisher, members of council, the initial transfer that was budgeted was $30,000. It needed to be increased to $84,288 in order to balance their budget, so it's an additional transfer of $54,288.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Hassler. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let's talk a little bit about exceeding caps. When I hear the term on the fire department that they've gotten to their caps, I'm assuming it's because this topic has been kicked down the road for as long as I've been on the council, as far as the revenue side of the council. And so with us approaching that cap, what do we do here? What's the long-term solution to trying to fix that? Because we can't just raise the cap based on anything. We have to figure out a different revenue source or a different way to fund it. Is that correct?
Director Hassler.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Morgan, members of council, from what I understand, there are, and Director Osborne is here, he could explain it as well. We have two different districts. We have a urban district, which covers a section of the city. It is believed maybe to be the old city boundaries, and everybody in that boundary pays for this urban fire services. So they pay for, if you had a fire, every apparatus or every person to come, that's what is included in their charge. For the people who live outside of the district in the surrounding area, they pay an emergency services charge that is less than what the people inside the district pay. The people inside the district pay both. The people outside of the district pay just the emergency services district. And so there's been some discussion about how perhaps they go about, do they dissolve the original urban district and create a new district, or exactly what they can do, because the people that live outside of the district receive the same services, although they might even be a little bit more expensive because they don't have fire hydrants to tap into, so they have to have separate apparatus to haul water. And sometimes it takes more manpower and more apparatus and is, you know, therefore more expensive. And so I think that they are looking at exploring some ways to either create a new all-encompassing district or different things that they can do to try to increase the amount of revenue for the services that they provide to the entire county.
Thank you, Director Hassler.
Yeah.
Good. Chief Executive Gallagher.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, yeah, the question about this is, does something need to be done? And obviously it does, as we're getting close to the cap, that, you know, the services are costing more, so we've got to come up with a mechanism. And whatever that mechanism is going to be, it'll probably have to go to a vote of the people. And so whether it's creating a new district, dissolving districts and creating one big district or whatever, but we're looking at those mechanisms. We're in conversations with Fire Director Osborne and what that could look like. But we've recognized and we've always, since I've been in here, you know, we've been advised that we're approaching the cap, but I think that it's been in conversation with Director Osborne. I know this conversation was brought about in 2014 or 2006, was it? 2006. There was conversations and thoughts of creating one big district. So it will take public outreach, and it will take a ballot measure to do this, no matter what it is we're doing.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Commissioner Morgan.
Just a quick follow-up, Madam Chair. Yeah, thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. This has been, I've been involved in the fire department at some part for 20 some odd years, and it seems like this has always been the issue that really never addressed. And back in 2014, I know we expanded a little bit on that emergency services, and originally the fire district boundary ended at Holmes Avenue at one point, and then anybody south of that wasn't paying any taxes for fire services. What I would like to say, and I appreciate you looking at a solution for sure, if I can be of any assistance, please let me know, because I'd like to get this resolved, because it has been a topic for multiple decades.
Thank you, Commissioner Morgan. Chief Executive Gallagher.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioner Morgan. Yeah, absolutely. I think that bringing our heads combined to come up with a solution to address this issue needs to happen. So we will engage more conversation on this.
Thank you. Director Hassler, please continue.
All right. So on that note, I will move on to the certified values. We received the certified values from the Department of Revenue last Monday, which was August 5th. The countywide value we had anticipated in when developing the budget to be about 2% greater than the prior year, based on some preliminary estimates that were provided by the Department of Revenue in July. When we received those certified values, they were a little bit less than we anticipated. It was only an increase of 0.6%, so 1.4% less than we anticipated. The total amount of the certified value is $101,183,486 compared to $100,545,983. So per mill, this is a $637.50 increase, or 0.63% increase. In developing the budget, that was a concern. We worried, you know, how are we going to supplement the 1.4% that we didn't receive in the certified values? Luckily, this year we do have our ARPA funds, which do need to be allocated, and we do have interest revenue or earnings above that which was budgeted for last year. Going forward, I think that we can all anticipate that those interest revenues are going to decline. We're hearing talk from, you know, the federal government that they're going to, you know, look at decreasing the interest rate. So I think that's something going forward we need to be cognizant of in relying on interest revenue to balance our budget. But at the same time, we also need to be cognizant of our community and their ability to afford their taxes for our services. So I think that Chief Executive Gallagher, from the very beginning of the budget process, was very direct with the departments and asking them to only ask for their needs and to put their wish list aside based on the issues that we had last year and the tax increases that and how it impacted our community. And it didn't impact our community, the members of our community equally. So I think that, he just wanted to be very cognizant of that in developing this budget. So here's the new total appropriation. We started off with $173.1 million. We are now at 180.4, and that is an increase of $7.3 million. But I can tell you where that is all coming from. So earlier we talked about the $1.6 million donation of the water line from Montana Resources. That is part of that $7.3 million increase. $1.6 million in road reserves in order to complete some more road projects within the city. $930,175 budgeted additionally for courthouse improvements. $300,000 in support for the National Affordable Housing Network. $765,000 increase in the South Butte URD based on their increment value. $100,000 to reinstate the SCBA equipment reserve for the fire department. $100,000 to account for the Fair Board activities that we have to consolidate into our financial information. And $1.82 million in reclamation budget authority that was inadvertently omitted for stormwater projects. So that makes up the difference between the $1.73 million that was initially delivered to you in the draft budget and the total appropriation that we see today. The tax-supported budget is at $73.2 million, which is supported 39% by tax revenue. This is compared to $29.4 million, or 43% of the total budget in 2024. The property tax revenue is anticipated to increase by $104,104. The increase in total appropriations for tax-supported funds is $2 million, and it's due to the use of reserve funds for capital projects and roads and the use of ARPA funds for capital purchases the ARPA funds are being transferred to the general fund for capital purchases. The slight increase in property tax revenue, along with an increase in the non-tax supported revenues in the amount of $2.4 million, balance the tax-supported appropriations in fiscal year 25. This includes interest earnings, a slight increase in the entitlement share payments, a change in allocation for local option tax that is no longer needed to match the BARSA funding, and an increase in other federal and state grant payments. We have also proposed a $1.07 million transfer from the ARPA funds to the general fund to cover the non-grant funded capital expenditures. I just want everyone to recall that the ARPA funds need to be spent or under contract by December of 2024, and so time is of the essence to get these funds committed, contracted, and spent. Any funds not spent or under contract by that time will have to be returned to the federal government, and the opportunity to use them will be lost. So the next, you have in front of you also a resource and requirement schedule, and this is still based on the draft version. We do not have, it is the draft version of the budget as amended. The local government will be levying 301.75 mills in 2025. This is compared to 302 mills in 2024. This is a slight decrease from the prior fiscal year. Property tax revenues will increase by $104,000, but that's due to the increase in the taxable value. In our user fees and non-supported non-tax supported budgets, we are not anticipating, we have not budgeted for an increase in water, landfill, or storm water enterprise fund rates. Our metro sewer rates are scheduled to increase. The budget is dependent on an increase of 3%, or $10.26 annually for a single family residence. The rate increase is required due to our debt service requirements with the state revolving fund for the bonds that were issued to pay for the $34 million in mandated upgrades to our metro plant in 2014 through 2016. As a side note, the last time that there was an increase in the metro sewer rates was in 2016. It was part of a 4-year incremental increase to get us up to our, so we were exceeding our debt service ratio at that time. There has been no increase in 8 years. In our SIDs, including the countywide road and street maintenance district, there are no increases. The rate is still to remain at $87.71 for this year. Do we have any questions?
Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Karen, thank you for all the explanations. Question, when you were mentioning the extra monies basically from the 7 million, you mentioned the extra funds for roads, which is 1 point something million. Is that added on the budget basically for, so next year would we get 1 point whatever million dollars more in road work? Would that be a good way to look at that?
Director Hassler.
Madam Chair, Commissioner O'Neill, members of council, that's absolutely correct. These are reserve funds that they have, and instead of sitting on them, what better use to actually, get some projects done. And, there's zero impact to the taxpayer by adding this additional budget authority to the fiscal year 25 budget.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Also, if I go back to the law enforcement increases, I get that you would put it in the budget to make sure, obviously you're in negotiations still to see where it's going to land. What if it goes over, or could it go over in negotiating? Or just, I guess when you go to the table, this is the cap here, right? So is that a fair question? You see what I'm saying by that? Thank you.
Director Hassler.
Madam Chair, Commissioner O'Neill, members of council, these amounts were based on the 3% increase that was budgeted for every county employee, both union and non-union. The only difference is for these particular detectives and officers, it just increases the number of hours. So they currently work 2,080. They would increase their shifts and they would be working 2,184 to match the other officers, the patrol officers. And so it just, I guess it just brings them up to the number of hours. They would be working those hours. They wouldn't, it's not just, an increase. Those are for hours worked. That increases for hours worked.
Thank you, Director Hassler. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chairman Shea. Thank you, Karen. Could you tell me the estimated value of a mill this time?
Director Hassler.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Fisher, members of council, the value of a mill today, or as of last Monday when they reported it to us, is $101,183.
Thank you.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One last comment. I was really hoping that was a mess up on the Fair Board expenses, and that was increased to $100,000. I was hoping to just skip line that, nobody saw it, and it was an actual cash injection. So it was a great dream to be like, nobody look at that. So thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? Thank you, Director Hassler, for all the great information and the great news.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think we'll continue to hold this. So Commissioner Thatcher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, at this time I would like to make a motion to continue to hold communication number 2024-351 in abeyance.
There's a motion and a second to hold communication number 2024-351 in abeyance. Is there anything on the question? Will everybody please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
11 yea, 0 nay.
11 yea, 0 nay, motion passes. Item number 3, communication number 2024-355. Karen Hassler, Interim Finance and Budget Director, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to schedule a public hearing for August 14th, 2024 for the adoption of the fiscal year 2025 final budget and establish the user rates for stormwater system, solid waste disposal and collection, and lighting and fire hydrant districts. A public hearing will begin on August 14th, 2024 and be continued until the Council of Commissioners sets a date to adopt the fiscal year 2025 final budget and fix the rate and levies. We will continue to hold this until such time that we close that public hearing. Item number 4, communication number 2024-356. Karen Hassler, Interim Finance and Budget Director, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to schedule a public hearing for August 14th, 2024 to establish the user rates for Metro Sewer. The public hearing will begin on August 14th, 2024 and be continued until the Council of Commissioners sets a date to adopt the fiscal year 2025 final budget and fix the rate. Same as above, we will continue to hold this and for the duration of the open public hearing. Item number 5, communication 2024-358. John Moodry, Community Enrichment Director, requesting the Council of Commissioners authorization for time on the August 14, 2024 agenda to report back findings of review of RFP quotes for parking services for Butte-Silver Bow parking enforcement. We had that presentation tonight, so Commissioner Thatcher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I would like to place communication number 2024-358 on file.
There's a motion and a second to place communication 2024-358 on file. Is there anything on the question? Will everybody please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
11 yea, 0 nay.
11 yea, 0 nay, motion passes. Now we'll move on to public comment on any public matter not on the agenda. If you have a comment on anything not on the agenda, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Reddy Frost, 2000 Roberts Avenue, Butte, Montana. I'm sorry I wasn't here earlier. It actually is about something that was on the agenda, but I was held up. So I received my water bill the other day, and it said we were getting a $3 increase, which neither here nor there. That's great. I mean, it's $35. Who cares? You know, water's great. But the sheer amount of potholes that are caused by manhole covers being 4 inches down on Main Street and right in front of my house, I think it's 6 to 8 inches for the storm drain that my tenants have to drive over. I think you guys could afford to. I think Butte-Silver Bow would love, the people here would love maybe $2 more on there so that we don't have these problems anymore. I don't know who's doing our road work, but that's ridiculous. Every time I drive up here, it's I mean, it's axle braking, and we have tourists all year round. I mean, Butte's amazing and stuff. Let's not destroy our trucks and vehicles while we're seeing our sights. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the comment. I appreciate it. Is there any other comments, public comments? Seeing none, any announcements from commissioners? Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.